Welcome to the darkness. Listen closely. Not all hospitals close entire wings because of renovations. Sometimes they close them because of things they can't explain. This is what happened to a nurse named Tyler at Mercy General Hospital in rural Pennsylvania. Make sure you're subscribed because his story gets worse. Hit that like button if you're ready for what's coming. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. Let's begin. Working nights at Mercy General Hospital wasn't supposed to be like this. I was 29, fresh out of nursing school with about 18 months of experience under my belt, and the night differential pay was too good to pass up. An extra $4 an hour meant I could actually start paying down my student loans, instead of just watching the interest pile up. My girlfriend Sarah worked days at the same hospital in pediatrics, so we'd pass each other during shift changes. Quick kiss in the parking lot, her heading home while I was just arriving. It felt like we were living in different worlds, even though we shared the same apartment. Mercy General was old, built in 1952, back when they made hospitals with actual character. Thick concrete walls, narrow hallways, and that specific smell that no amount of bleach could ever fully cover. The place had been through 3 major renovations, each one adding a new wing or converting old spaces. Some parts of the building were modern, all bright lights and automated systems. Other parts felt frozen in time, like walking into a museum of mid-century medical equipment. The East Wing, where I usually worked, was the newer section. Post-op recovery mostly. Standard rotation of patients coming out of surgery, monitoring vitals, managing pain meds, the usual routine. The work was demanding but predictable, 12-hour shifts from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., with maybe a 30-minute break, around 2 in the morning if I was lucky. My supervisor, Karen, a woman in her late 50s who'd been at Mercy since before I was born, ran a tight ship. She didn't tolerate laziness, but she was fair. If you did your job, she had your back. It was mid-November when things changed. A Tuesday night, I remember, because Tuesdays were always slow. People don't schedule elective surgeries early in the week. I clocked in at 6:45, changed into my scrubs in the staff locker room, and checked the assignment board. My name was listed for the West Wing, 4th floor. I stared at it for a moment, confused. Karen? I called out, finding her in her office reviewing charts. I think there's a mistake on the board. It says I'm in West Wing tonight. She looked up, reading glasses perched on her nose. No mistake, Tyler. We're short-staffed. Jenny called in sick, and the agency couldn't send anyone on short notice. Need you to cover. But the West Wing 4th floor. I trailed off. Everyone knew about the West Wing 4th floor. It had been closed for almost 2 years, ever since they'd consolidated services and moved all the active units to the east side. As far as I knew, it was just empty roofs and old equipment waiting to be relocated or sold off. Not the whole floor, Karen clarified. We've got 3 overflow patients up there temporarily. Maintenance is doing emergency repairs in East Wing tonight. Some kind of plumbing issue. Should only be for your shift. Just keep an eye on them. Standard monitoring. Nothing complicated. She handed me a clipboard with 3 patient charts. I scanned the names. Robert Chen, 67, post-op hip replacement. Margaret Owens, 54, recovering from gallbladder surgery. David Shaw, 71, observation after a fall. All straightforward cases. There's no other staff up there, I asked. Security does rounds every 2 hours. You need anything? Call down to the main desk. Your phone will work fine up there. She gave me a look over her glasses. It's just a different floor, Tyler. Same hospital, same job. I nodded, took the clipboard, and headed for the elevators. The thing was, I'd been on the 4th floor of the West Wing exactly once before, during my orientation, when they'd given new hires a full tour of the facility. It had been daytime then, lights on, people around. Just a bunch of empty rooms stripped of their equipment. Nothing scary, just sad, in the way that abandoned places are sad. Evidence of all the activity and life that used to be there, now just echoes. The elevator ride up felt longer than it should have. The West Wing elevators were older, slower. They made this groaning sound as they climbed. When the doors finally opened on the 4th floor, I stepped out into darkness. Not complete darkness, but dim emergency lighting. The kind that barely lets you see 5 feet in front of you. I found the light switches next to the elevator and flipped them. Fluorescent lights flickered on down the hallway, that distinctive buzzing hum filling the space. About half of them worked. The others stayed dark. leaving patches of shadow between the pools of light. The nurse's station was about 30 feet down the hall, a circular desk that had probably been the hub of activity back when this floor was operational. Someone had set it up with the basics: a computer that was logged in, a phone, some basic supplies. There was even a fresh pot of coffee still warm. Someone from day shift must have brought it up before leaving. I set my bag down, pulled up the patient files on the computer, and familiarized myself with their locations. Room 412, 415, and 418, all in the same hallway, which made sense. Easier to monitor. The rest of the floor, maybe 40 other rooms, sat empty. I did my initial rounds. All 3 patients were stable, sleeping soundly. Mr. Chen was snoring softly, his hip surgery bandages clean and dry. Mrs. Owens didn't even stir when I checked her vitals. Mr. Shaw opened his eyes briefly when I entered, gave me a small nod, then drifted back to sleep. Standard post-op recovery, nothing unusual. Back at the nurse's station, I settled in, charted the vitals, set reminders for the next checks in 2 hours. Pulled out my phone to text Sarah. Stuck on spooky abandoned floor tonight, miss you. She'd see it in the morning. The first hour passed quietly. Too quietly, actually. In the East Wing there was always ambient noise. Other staff moving around, the sound of TVs from patient rooms. The occasional call button. Here there was nothing. Just the buzz of the fluorescent lights and the distant hum of the HVAC system. Around 9:30 I heard it for the first time. A sound from down the hall. The south corridor. The section where all the rooms were empty. It sounded like a door closing. Not a slam, but that specific click of a door latching shut. I looked up from the computer screen, listening. Nothing. Just the usual background noise. Probably maintenance, I thought. They were working in the building tonight. Maybe they needed to access something up here. I went back to my charting. 10 minutes later, it happened again. Same sound, same direction. This time I stood up and walked to the edge of the nurse's station, peering down the south corridor. The lights were off down there. Just darkness beyond the first 20 feet. Hello? I called out. My voice sounded strange in the empty space. Too loud and too small at the same time. No response. I walked back to the desk, pulled up the internal directory, and called security. Security, this is Mike. Hey Mike, this is Tyler. Nurse on West Wing, 4th floor. You guys doing any work up here tonight? 4th floor west? Nah man, that floor's been closed. Why? I keep hearing noises. Doors closing or something. He chuckled. Old building, dude. It makes sounds. Like expanding. Stuff settling. You get used to it. Yeah, probably right. Thanks. No problem. I'll be up for rounds around midnight anyway. Holler if you eat anything before then. I hung up, feeling slightly embarrassed. Of course it was just building sounds. I was letting the isolation get to me. At 11 p.m., I did my second round of patient checks. Everyone's still stable. Mr. Shaw was awake this time, watching an old western on the TV mounted to the wall. I adjusted his IV, made small talk about the movie, charted everything. Mrs. Owens and Mr. Chen continued sleeping peacefully. As I walked back toward the nurse's station, I passed room 420. The door was open. I stopped. I was certain, absolutely certain, that all the doors in the empty section had been closed during my first round. I specifically remembered thinking how orderly it looked. All those closed doors in a row. Now room 420 stood open. Not wide open, but ajar. Maybe 6 inches of dark space showing. I approached slowly, reaching for the door handle. The room beyond was pitch black. I fumbled for the light switch inside the door frame, found it, flipped it up. Nothing happened. Bulb must be out. I used my phone flashlight, sweeping it across the interior. An empty patient room. No bed, no equipment. Just bare walls and a vinyl floor, with those distinctive scuff marks from where furniture used to sit. The closet door was closed. The bathroom door was closed. Nothing there. I pulled the door shut firmly, made sure it latched, and went back to the nurse's station. At 11:45, the call button went off. Room 418. Mr. Shaw. I grabbed the phone. This is Tyler. Everything okay, Mr. Shaw? His voice came through scratchy on the intercom. Nurse, there's someone in the hallway. They keep walking past my room. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? I asked, my voice suddenly unsteady. What did they look like? Couldn't see clearly, but I heard footsteps. Someone walking back and forth out there. Thought maybe it was you, but you just left not too long ago. I stepped out from behind the nurse's station and looked down the main corridor where the patient rooms were. Empty. Then I turned toward the south corridor, the dark one. At the far end, maybe 80 feet away, I saw movement. Just for a second. A shadow passing across one of the few working lights down there. A figure. "Hey," I called out, starting to walk toward it. "Can I help you?" The figure stopped. I could see the silhouette now. A person, average height, standing perfectly still. "Sir, ma'am, visiting hours are over. You shouldn't be up here." The figure turned and walked away, disappearing around the corner where the corridor branched off toward the old surgical wing. I broke into a jog, reaching the corner quickly. The surgical wing corridor stretched ahead, completely dark, except for the red glow of exit signs. I hit the light switches. Nothing. None of the lights worked in this section. Using my phone flashlight again, I moved forward. The corridor was lined with doors on both sides. Operating rooms, prep rooms, equipment storage, all closed, all silent. "Hello?" My voice echoed slightly. At the end of the corridor, maybe 50 feet ahead, I heard a door open and close. The same sound from earlier. This wasn't building sounds. Someone was up here. I should have called security right then. That would have been the smart thing. But part of me was angry. This was my floor tonight. I was responsible for my patients. Some random person wandering around, possibly a confused visitor, or worse, couldn't be allowed. I walked to the end of the corridor. 6 doors, 3 on each side. I tried the first one on the left. Locked. The one on the right, locked. Middle left, locked. Middle right. The handle turned. The door swung open. Another empty room. This one bigger. An old operating theater. The surgical lights still hung from the ceiling, dark and dusty. Cabinets lined the walls, all empty, doors hanging open. In the center of the room was a metal operating table, still bolted to the floor, and on that table was a hospital gown, neatly folded. I stepped closer, my heart pounding now. The gown looked old, the kind they used to use, the faded blue color, but it was folded. Recently, the creases were still sharp. I backed out of the room, pulling the door shut behind me. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone and called security. "Mike, I need you up on 4th floor west, now." "What's wrong?" "I don't know. Just get up here." "On my way." I walked quickly back to the nurse's station, keeping my eyes on the corridor behind me. The empty hallway suddenly felt wrong. Too many shadows, too many doors, too many places for someone to hide. Mike arrived 8 minutes later, stepping off the elevator with his flashlight and radio. "What's going on?" he asked. I explained everything. The sounds, the figure, the open door, the gown on the table. He listened, his expression shifting from concern to something else. Something uncomfortable. "Tyler," he said carefully, "how much did they tell you about this floor when they assigned you up here?" "Nothing, just that it was closed. Overflow patients tonight because of maintenance." He was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "This floor closed 2 years ago, but they didn't close it because of consolidation. They closed it because of complaints. Staff refusing to work up here, patients asking to be moved. All the same stuff you're describing. Sounds, shadows, doors opening." I felt cold. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because they need someone up here tonight, and they knew if they told you, you'd refuse, like everyone else does. He paused. "Look, I've done rounds up here 100 times. Never seen anything that could actually hurt anyone. Whenever it is, it's just noise, shadows, mind playing tricks." "What about the gown?" "Show me." We walked together back to the surgical wing. Mike got the lights to work, flipping a different set of switches I'd missed. The corridor illuminated, showing its age. Peeling paint, water-stained ceiling tiles. We reached the operating theater. I pushed open the door. The table was empty. The gown was gone. Mike searched the room thoroughly, checked the cabinets, even looked under the table. "Nothing. Maybe you just thought you saw it," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "It was there." Okay. Look, finish your shift. Keep the lights on everywhere you can. Stay at the nurse's station. I'll come back up at 2 for my regular rounds. If anything else happens, call me immediately." He left. I went back to the nurse's station and didn't move from that spot for the next few hours. Did my patient checks quickly, running there and back. No more wondering, no more investigating. The rest of the shift passed without incident. No more sounds, no more shadows. Just me, 3 sleeping patients, and the buzzing fluorescent lights. When 7 a.m. finally came and day shift arrived, I'd never been so relieved to see other people. I gave report, grabbed my bag, and headed for the elevator. As I waited for the doors to open, I glanced back down the south corridor one last time. Room 420's door was open again. I stepped into the elevator and rode down in silence, staring at my reflection in the metal doors. My face looked pale, exhausted. When I got to my car, I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, just breathing, before I could drive home. Sarah was already awake, making coffee in the kitchen. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. "Bad shift?" she asked. "Yeah, really bad." I didn't tell her the details, didn't want to sound crazy. Just said it was stressful, working alone on a closed floor. She understood, gave me a hug, told me to get some sleep. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure, that shadow moving down the corridor, the folded gown on the operating table. I tried to rationalize it: old building, stress, isolation. My mind filling in gaps, creating patterns where there weren't any. That's what I told myself. The next day I went back to work, East Wing, my regular assignment. Everything felt normal again. Familiar sounds, other staff members, patients with families visiting. The 4th floor West Wing felt like a bad dream. But 3 days later, Karen called me into her office. "Tyler, I need you to cover West Wing 4th again tonight. Jenny's still out sick." "No." The word came out before I could stop it. She looked surprised. "Excuse me? I can't work that floor. I'm sorry, but I can't." "Tyler, it's not just a different floor." I interrupted. "Something's wrong up there. You know it. Everyone knows it. That's why it's closed. That's why no one wants to work there." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Okay, I'll find someone else." I wanted to warn whoever she sent. Tell them what I'd experienced. But what would I say? I saw a shadow, a door open by itself. They'd think I was losing it. That night, I worked my regular shift in the East Wing. Around 2 a.m. during my break, I was in the staff break room when I heard the announcement over the intercom. "Security to West Wing 4th floor. Security to West Wing 4th floor." My blood went cold. I shouldn't have gone up there. It wasn't my floor. It wasn't my responsibility. But I had to know. I took the West Wing elevator up. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, I saw security, Mike and another guard, standing with a younger nurse. I didn't recognize. She looked terrified. "What happened?" I asked. Mike turned. "Tyler, you shouldn't be here." "What happened?" I repeated. The young nurse, her name tag said Emily, looked at me with wide eyes. Someone was in the surgical wing. I saw them. I called security, but when we got there, she trailed off. "No one was there," Mike finished. "Checked every room, every closet, nothing." I looked at Emily. "Did you see what they looked like?" "Just a shadow, a person-shaped shadow." The same thing I'd seen. Over the next 2 weeks, I heard the stories. Different nurses assigned to the 4th floor, all of them experiencing the same things: sounds, shadows, doors opening. Some refused to go back. Others, like me, requested transfers to different units. Eventually, the hospital stopped trying to use the floor at all, even for overflow. It stayed closed, lights off, doors locked. I stayed at Mercy General, worked my shifts in the East Wing, never set foot in the West Wing again if I could help it. But here's the thing. Sometimes late at night when I'm doing my rounds, I pass by the elevators. Both the East Wing and West Wing elevators are visible from where I work. And I see it. The West Wing elevator car, moving, the floor indicator lighting up. 4th floor. Then coming back down, ground floor. Then going back up. 4th floor. Over and over. All night long. No one's calling it. No one's using it. The 4th floor is locked. Security checks it every night. The doors don't open. No one gets on or off. But that elevator keeps going up. And sometimes when it passes the 2nd floor on its way up, I swear I can see a shadow through the small window in the elevator door. Just standing there, riding up to the 4th floor. Over and over. To this day, I don't know what's on that floor. I don't know who or what I saw that night. I don't know why that elevator keeps moving, but I know one thing. Whatever is up there, it's still there. Still walking those hallways, still opening those doors, still waiting. I never went back to the 4th floor West Wing, and I never will. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you're subscribed for more Night Shift horror stories like this. Check out the full playlist in the description. We've got hospital horror, warehouse horror, security guard horror, and more. And drop a comment. Would you have stayed at that hospital, or would you have quit immediately? Thanks for watching, and if you work night shift, stay safe out there. You never know what's walking the empty halls when everyone else goes home. See you in the next one.